of Governors, and we will continue on with item 2.6, the Institutional Effectiveness Framework of Indicators. Chancellor.
All right. President Baum and board members, this action item, which is on page 29 of your agenda, presents for your adoption the Framework of Indicators for the Institutional Effectiveness Partnership Initiative. To present this item is Vice Chancellor for Institutional Effectiveness, Teresa Tena.
Good morning, President Baum, Vice President Estolano, board members, Chancellor Skinner. This is the third time that the Institutional Effectiveness Partnership Initiative has come before the board to have action taken on this framework of indicators. The framework of indicators is required in statute. There are 4 areas that it focuses on: student performance, fiscal viability, accreditation status, and compliance with federal and state regulations. The indicators have been developed after thoughtful consideration over the last year. Last year we were at this board meeting and we had year 2 indicators approved by the board, and subsequently embarked very quickly in coming up with year 3 metrics for the system. These metrics are distributed widely throughout the system. There are some that our colleges and districts are required to set goals on in each of those 4 categories that we mentioned. There's an interest in ensuring that within the system there is ample time to engage in collegial consultation with the local committee structures that weigh in on these particular metrics. And passing this in November provides that ample opportunity to engage in that consultation, that collegial consultation prior to the information being returned back to the state in June. For today's presentation, we are going to strictly focus on the framework of indicators. I think one of the things that we've realized within the initiative is that there is such a robust amount of activity occurring within the professional development and technical assistance areas that we will likely be coming back before the board periodically to give updates in terms of the activities that are unfolding in those areas. So for this morning's presentation, we are going to just focus on the metrics themselves and answer any questions, and then of course ask for your vote of support. So I'm going to go through the metrics, and I will only focus on the ones that are new for year 3, and just kind of go at a bit of a high level in terms of information. Again, these indicators all focus on 4 areas outlined in statute, and the first ones being the transfer level math and English completion rates for year 1 and 2. This was an area that received quite a bit of attention within the work group of IEPI that focuses on the indicators. There's been quite a bit of focus on college readiness and basic skills transitions from courses to credit courses. And so that was a very timely and appropriate measure to include in the year 3 metrics for consideration by colleges. As well, number of low unit certificates is really responding to interest in the part of folks knowing how well our, just recording how well our workforce area is doing in terms of identifying more certificates in that area that are low unit. Medium time to degree is how quickly students reach their goal. Yeah, I think we lost sound. Testing.
Is the other microphone working?
Yeah. All right, can you hear me now?
Why don't you try the other one?
Is that what works? All righty, can you hear me now? No. I'll talk loud, I can do that. Okay. All right. So then, medium time to degree is just how quickly students reach pass through to their goal of a degree. Number of CDCP awards and non-credit fill in the blank. I will say that these two areas have been very important areas of focus within the system of late. Particularly, a couple of years ago, the state provided an increased reimbursement rate for CDCP non-credit. And they did that and equalized it to the credit rate. And there's been quite an interest in providing, more non-credit course offerings. And there's been just a tremendous amount of interest in non-credit in general as a result of the adult education efforts and reforms of late. There's the CTE Skills Builder, which is actually already included in our system scorecard, and an access metric, district participation rate for 18 to 24-year-olds. This is tied back to the fiscal viability statutory underpinning, in that, the question is, how well are you serving your local community? And so, this metric is attempting to answer that. Then there's the OPEB liability. This is something of great interest, particularly given the recent discussions and focus on the outstanding liabilities of districts. This is actually going to be self-reported by the by the districts themselves. We're going to ask them to supply us for prior year information and actually current year information in assessing this metric. There's no new goals required to be set for any of these metrics. In many instances, this information doesn't have to be supplied by the colleges to the Chancellor's office. This is actually information that the Chancellor's office already has within its MIS system, and so it's merely just performing the calculations and providing the rates and the metrics and the percentages back to the colleges to help inform their goal-setting activities. So with that, I'm just happy to take any questions in terms of the actual metrics themselves.
Before we go to board member questions, we have a member of the public that would like to address the board on this.
Yeah, we have Jeffrey Michaels.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jeffrey Michaels with the California Community College Independence, CCCI. And I just want to make a comment that I also made at consultation. I first just want to say how much I really appreciated hearing the board ask for better data about full-time and part-time ratios. I'm really struck in looking at the metrics and the ways that we talk about institutional effectiveness by what's missing from the list. As a teacher, I know from experience and from lots of research that one of the key predictors of student success is whether students form a personal relationship with their faculty, with the institution, and I don't see us measuring any of the things that would indicate that, like full-time, part-time ratio and counselor to student ratio and the availability of office hours, particularly with part-time faculty, and the quality of student experience in general, the breadth of course offerings that we offer, how big the classes are. It seems to me that the list that the legislation requires is presented as a minimum, and that it would really be interesting to talk, even when we talk fiscally, about how districts and colleges are making spending decisions, how much is being spent on administration, on deans, on classified supervisors, on full-time faculty, on part-time faculty, because as we try to improve the quality of the institutions, we're really talking about the quality of student experience. And I'm just struck all the way through since we started this Student Success Task Force that keeps getting sort of left off, and it's always the information that we wish we had, but those numbers are not being tracked and it's not part of the local discussion. So I just wanted to add that. And I know this may not be the exact moment, but as we're looking at year 4 metrics, maybe we should be talking about measuring how we form relationships with students and what kind of experience we're providing when they get to us. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to board member questions or discussion. Member Belinsky.
Does this data get posted? I'm not remembering what the colleges send in. Does this get posted somewhere so that it's readily available to see?
It is. There is a portal within the Chancellor's office. The IAPI indicator portal. It is actually going to go live shortly after the board takes action today to allow it to be populated with current information and then allow for the goal-setting activity. And you are able to see once all the goal-setting activity is completed, likely at the end of June, you'll see year 3 information. You can go there, though, now and see year 2 information already populated there.
And just one comment. In the accreditation status area, I think there's a new status that's called fully accredited for 18 months with a follow-up report. They started that with the 2014 standards.
Appreciate that.
Vice President Estolano?
Yeah, excuse me, not understanding this. Can you just explain to me again what a career development college prep certificate is?
So it's a combination of courses that are leading to, and they have to be in a certain 9 areas of instruction. And trying to remember off the top of my head, what those all are in terms of adult basic education.
But this is only 4.
ESL, citizenship, parenting. But there's a cohort of 9 eligible course offerings that are in statute, and this CDCP rate is eligible for courses that are in a sequence that an institution offers, and it's in the non-credit area of instruction.
Okay.
Chancellor?
And I'll just briefly add to that. So these are sequences of non-credit courses that are funded at a higher rate. And this was a negotiation between our system and state leaders that happened probably at this point 6 or 7 years ago, in which the argument was that our non-credit courses should be funded at a rate that's equal to the credit rate. And the state leaders came back and said, okay, this in particular with the Department of Finances where the negotiation happened, that they were willing to do that if it was a subset of non-credit programs, non-credit courses, that could be shown to be a rigorous sequence that would lead to a measurable career or higher education outcome. And so these are kind of high value non-credit tracks, programs that again lead to either kind of a high value educational or a vocational outcome, and because of that we track them separately. And the important thing at the time was that we secured additional funding for those courses so that they'd be funded at a rate equal to the credit rate.
Yeah, just to add to that, there are 4 categories that were given higher funding, and 2 of those categories were around occupational training. And it almost had the feel of people who have jobs but want to come back and get additional skills, that they wouldn't have to go through credit classes, that they could go through these non-credit classes that, beginning and ending date is not looked at the same way as a credit class. And so a lot of the certificates are that too, that an individual is coming back to get an actual certificate. But you have to have the courses in a certificate also to get the higher rate of funding.
Any other questions? Member Burdick.
Just a comment. One of the things that should be accomplished with this is the consultation on campus. And this is one place where we bring the institutional researcher in with the faculty and with the student service personnel and have a really strong discussion that in our case, it lasted well over 2 months about what these indicators meant to us, how we could change them, and how we could work together. And it really was one of those places that brought us into a common room and started sharing resources. And we started looking at new research needs that we needed in order to inform our own conversation. So it's very useful.
Member Haynes.
So I'm wondering, this added district level indicator median time to degree. Does it get us to, I've always been concerned about the scorecard, which has a 6-year sort of window, and to what extent are we sort of monitoring how many students are getting through the process of education at a community college in 4 years or 5 years, but 4 years is sort of what I've sort of landed on. Will that indicator get us to know who
So-
those students are?
I'm going to ask Stacy Fisher in our research office, who actually sits on the work group within the IAPI initiative. And actually, they created this as a new metric, a very new metric within the system. So maybe, Stacy, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, this particular metric is almost, so basically what we would do, for example, for this year, is we would identify all of the students who achieved an associate's degree, and then we would count backwards to see exactly when they first entered the system. And so we can think of it as a long-term metric, but you can also think of it as a short-term metric, because we'll get the students immediately as they achieve their degrees, and then we can see how long it took this particular cohort of degree recipients to have achieved that. So we should, if in fact we're trying to get students through quicker, we should see that number go down over time. So I hope that answered your question.
And so it did. And this information is going to be posted as well. Will it be disaggregated?
For the portal, it will not be disaggregated.
So is it then incumbent upon the district to? The district gives you that. No, you're doing the determination, if I'm understanding.
Yes.
So you're doing it by district.
Yes.
Okay, so how is that then? How is that then?
sorry, it's by college.
How does that circle close relative to a district getting the information if it's not posted?
And in your response, if you even want to connect it either to the scorecard or Data Mart or other data tools, I think the question is broader than just IEPI.
Right.
How can colleges disaggregate that information to drive local decision making?
Yes. Thank you.
So I would say that first off, the information is by college within the portal. So you'll actually be able to see for every single college, the college's information for that time to degree metric. And as Chancellor Skinner said, there are other data tools that we use within the system. There's the system scorecard, there's Launchboard, there's these IAPI metrics. That is actually something that we're spending a little bit of time thinking about, perhaps strategies to better integrate all that information, and actually to address some of the things that you talked about in terms of, some of the lagging components of these indicators, and trying to incorporate more leading, shorter times for those indicators.
Thank you very much.
Member Sumner?
Is there a way to track, like, say, for example, if somebody was to go to GCC, that you've already got their information, then they switch over to PCC, will that information follow them? So we'll be able to track that?
It measures back, so it will be counted for the college that they received their degree at, but we do look back anywhere in the system where they started first time in the system.
So as long as they're within the community college system?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Member Dilloway?
Specifically for math year completed transfer level, I'm having trouble understanding why that is an indicator of success. I'm not sure if a student who completes their transfer level math in the first year is exactly a metric of success for the institution. I know sometimes it's a counselor would actually advise for you to wait until your second year, and I know for a lot of majors you actually have to take a lot of prerequisites depending on the college before you can even get to your transfer level mathematics. So I'm having trouble understanding why that's exactly a metric that we're now going to be using.
The one thing, there are a couple of reforms that are going on in basic skills, and so what we're trying to do with this particular metric is we were trying to capture any changes in the system based on those two reforms. And so the two sets of reforms are placement, right? So we're trying to see whether we can place students more accurately instead of underplacing them. And if that's the case, then we'll see students complete through transfer level in the first or second year more quickly than they had in the past. It will probably never be 100%, obviously, but we should see a higher rate of those students doing that. And then the second one also is all of the wraparound resources and acceleration. And this metric also allows us to catch that as well. So we really liked this particular metric because it allows us to sort of incorporate both of those new sets of reforms to see the impact over time. But you're absolutely right in terms of the other concerns as well.
So if we adopt the recommendation, this means these 8 new college-level outcome indicators and the 3 district-level indicators would be incorporated into our data mart and then could be used in the student success scorecard and other types of.
They would be incorporated into the IAPI indicator portal as year 3 metrics.
And that will be accessible to the system and also
Completely.
to policymakers and other researchers.
Completely.
I'd like to entertain a motion on the recommendation. Okay. I'll have I saw Member Sumner's hand first, so I'll have her take the motion. I'll take the second from Member Burdick. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We now move on to the next item and appoint a new member to the Foundation for California Community Colleges Board of Governors, item 2.7. Chancellor.
All right. President Baum and board members, this item is on page 33 of your agenda. It is an action item presented for your approval. It deals with the appointment of a new member to the Foundation for California Community Colleges Board of Directors. And so to present this item will be Vice Chancellor Paul Feast, who will be joined by Foundation President Keitha Mills. If you could please join us at the table.
Hi, good morning, President Baum, Vice President Estelano. Members of the board, we are pleased to present a new Foundation board member candidate, Kathy Williams, for your consideration and ratification. In your book is a brief summary of the process that our board goes through to vet and bring potential board members forward to your for your consideration. We were very fortunate to have a number of members who have expressed interest through our nomination process. So we had several great candidates to vet and consider, and Kathy Williams rose to the top. She has tremendous experience in the system. She brings to our board a combination of great experience both in philanthropy but also in the business world, and we are very pleased to bring her nomination forward to you for consideration. The last thing I would mention is that I want to thank Member Avalos and Member Perry, who are also members of the Foundation board, for their participation in this process as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Before we go to discussion, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Member Avalos, second by Member DeLilly. I see. Any discussion? Our representative on the foundation, anything to add on that?
The only thing I'd like to add is that we are replacing a person, Patricia, who has been on the board for a long time, has business skills, and executive IBM. This particular person replicates that same type of skill set, really private industry skill set that we'll bring to the table. So, I encourage everyone to support with a yes vote.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Seeing no opposition, congratulations. Let extend our appreciation to her for her service. We look forward to meeting her. Okay, that concludes our action agenda. We will then, we're going to do the first of our information items, and we'll go with our state and federal legislative update. Chancellor.
President Baum and board members, this next item, which is on page 35 of your agenda, is an update on recent state and federal legislative activities, as well as some additional information about the November 2016 election. To present this item is Acting Vice Chancellor for External Relations, Mike McGee.
Thank you, Interim Chancellor Skinner, President Baum, members of the board. Thank you for the introduction. At the last board meeting in September, we didn't have a government relations presentation, in part because of time, but also there wasn't a lot to discuss then with only 3 bills signed by the governor. But since then, the governor's final actions are well over a month old, and you've no doubt seen updates from various resources. But I have included in the update in the board item actions for the records so that you can use them and read them, review them at your leisure. And technically, the legislature is still in its final recess until the end of this month. And on December 5th, the new class of California legislators will be sworn in. So respecting and focusing on efficient use of your time, and using the resources within the package, I thought I would focus more on the election results. The information item was noted in the agenda that we would make a presentation. However, the handout was not able to be made until recently because of the timing of the election. So if you focus on the handout that was presented at your table, if you take the results from a community college perspective, we did pretty well in many areas. We have presented some information on our local bond measures as well as a statewide bond. If you notice, 12 of the 14 local bond measures passed. One of them that did not pass at Shasta is very close. It's at 54.55%. So that could change when the final vote counts are certified. And along with Proposition 51 with the bonds, also the Proposition 55, as you know, passed. 51 passed with a vote of 52%, although polls going into the election were below 50%. And that tax extension from Proposition 30 passed 62%. If you look at all the bond measures, local and state, that's reaching about $10 billion in construction projects that the state approved at the state and local level. We noted from the community college perspective, once again, that there's about 7 new members of the Assembly, Senate, and U.S. Congress with some direct community college connection. And these are the new members that are coming in. And later in your handout on page 3, all the new members from both houses and in Congress, we have a little brief biographical information that we thought relates to their higher ed, and in many cases their service, whether they're in the Army, Navy, Air Force, et cetera, because so many of our community college students are veterans, that is a biographical data point that we've picked up in our office. And finally, just a handful of new members to Congress that are listed there with a brief bio on the new U.S. Senator Kamala Harris, who has some higher education links. As you know, she took on Corinthian colleges with a successful suit against that institution. So this information is mostly just focused on community colleges and how our system fared in the election. Hopefully that'll be at least some good news for you. Having included the other information in the board item, that would be concluding my presentation.
Questions?
I'd like to make
Member
a comment.
Avalos?
I really appreciate your write-up. It's really good. You know, I think that it's definitely information that we need to have, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question. I hadn't looked at it closely. Senator-elect Harris, besides the Corinthian colleges, has she spoken about community colleges, either as Attorney General or during her campaign, and what can we look for with her?
I don't have any information regarding that at this point. Sorry about that.
We'll have to make sure she helps carry our message to Washington.
Hopefully we'll be able to visit with her if we continue to do the trustee visit.
Member Belinsky.
Just out of curiosity, what are the next steps on some of these that would affect Title V? For instance, like if something, well, the AB 801 Success for Homeless Youth, that they're now to get priority enrollment.
Yes, on bills that will become law January 1st. I should also note there's a concurrent enrollment bill that took effect immediately, AB 562, I believe, by Holden. But mostly all the bills are going to start January 1st. We're working internally on basically what I would call a new laws update for the field. But some of the more detailed bills that require deeper guidance, the program staff are working to develop that, whether it is for a specific type of grant funds or a guidance on, I think, AB 1995 on the showers. Our facilities folks are already working on a guidance, and I think they have distributed that so that folks would be in the field would be better aware of the implementation of that bill.
Would it be possible to get that? Because I was told, like with the showers one, that it's not legally mandated, but it's a kind of a preferred thing or a recommended thing.
Yes, you're correct. We can forward that to you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
And if I could just piggyback on that to note that is part of our normal work process after legislation's enacted, is to go through both the regulatory changes that are necessary, and so our internal work is gearing up around a few of these bills, but then the guidance to the field is critically important. So we've got a running list of the legislation where we're working on such guidance, and the guidance that recently went out, I think it was last week, on AB 1995 Williams, which is the access to shower facilities for homeless students who are enrolled at a college, has gone out. It's pretty comprehensive. We've gotten some good feedback from the colleges appreciating that, and we will continue to provide guidance on some other legislation. We'd be happy to include that in the updates to the board that we send out weekly.
Member Sumner.
I was just going to say, I'm really excited when I'm looking at this, and we always talk about reaching across the table to reach out to, Republican, Democrat, or whatever. And last night I was really blessed. I got a ride with Laura Freeman and Dante from the airport because I didn't have a ride, and Laura knew me, so I said, okay. And so we had a discussion. We were already talking about community colleges. We were talking about veterans, and they were really excited. And they say, we're really excited to get on board. So I think the more we can communicate with our legislative and, not only waiting for the top level to do it, just from within our own communities, I think we get more buy-in from a lot of these people. So I just wanted to do a shout out to Laura and for Dante for giving me a ride last night, and I felt really secure. I said, no, I'm here to keep you guys safe. So.
Well, my hope is that there'll be, with new legislators both in Sacramento and Washington, there's going to be opportunity for the Board of Governors to continue joining the rest of the system in advocacy and educating our new elected officials about the community colleges, our priorities, and the benefits to the state and the economy. I know that from personal experience that with the Republican Congress, they are very receptive to hearing solutions from a community college perspective as to how it improves the workforce and improves opportunity in local districts. It wasn't that long ago, I think a couple of years ago, where Paul Ryan was one of the featured guests at the reception, and he talked warmly about the community college system in his district in Janesville. And so I look forward to you and Chance. I'm sure Chance, our incoming chancellor, will have a lot of ideas about how to approach both the state and the federal government, and look forward to engaging the entire board in those efforts.
One other question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Has anything been sent out at this time about the California Community College Promise Program and the funding and how that?
I don't know.
Go ahead
program.
and we will shift over to that.
So the Promise Program first needed a 10-day direction to you, and we've been working with Chancellor-elect Oakley and just kind of culling out some of the things that are important to him on promises. And we believe that by Thursday or Friday, we'll send out the RFP. So it's just trying to do the work we wanted, that we thought that was important to him, and so we didn't want to leave him out of this information. So he's been very actively involved in this process with us.
We could get that too. I'd like to see it.
Well, I want to extend my thanks to Acting Vice Chancellor McGee for helping shepherd our legislative priorities and filling us in, especially during this critical period, both with the governor and the legislature. Member Khan.
You'll have to excuse me, I'm recovering from a bit of sickness, but I wanted to go back to AB 1995. The original person who came up with the idea for the bill was a close friend of mine, so I'd been speaking to him back and forth on this. And he brought to my attention that apparently it's mandated per district, if you have shower facilities, to at least offer your services to those students who have paid their fees for at least 10 hours. I just want to make sure I have this information correct. Can you comment on that? I know it's a single bill out of the entire matrix that I'm calling out, but do you have any input on that? Is that correct?
I don't have that committed to memory. There are requirements, and there is a plan required of the district, which is why our Finance and Facilities Division provided some guidance. I think Mario would like to comment on that.
So the bill, through its many iterations, one of the things that it was silent on what good standing meant. It was silent on the number of units, but it did say the plan that districts will have to adopt shall include minimum number of units, what constitutes good standing. So it's our guidance that we pushed out last week. Just more or less lets districts know you have to have a plan, and your plan has to outline what the requirements are to be consistent with the bill, but those are locally determined.
Thank you.
Member Belinsky.
You know, I would ask that we might do a little more homework on this one, because for folks who use the CCLC templates for board policies and procedures, the legal firm of Whitmore, Liberty, and Cassidy, I think, has said that this is not a mandate. This is recommended for districts to do. And so that needs some clarification then in terms of people talking to one another about what the law is really saying.
So it's not a mandate. It's a condition of receiving student success dollars. So you could go ahead and not do it and just give up your share of the $300 million.
And is that in the directive that you sent out to the districts?
Yeah, it's pretty clear
I'd like
in
to
there.
see it.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty technical distinction where in the common use of the word mandate, I think this falls into that category. It's a requirement. No college is going to walk away from those funds. So effectively, it's a mandate. The way that apparently in this legal advisory the term was used, it was more of a technical reference to reimbursable state mandates under the California Constitution. So because it is, from a narrow perspective, a optional requirement in that a district could walk away from another source of funding and choose not to do this, it prevents community college districts from filing a mandate claim with the state of California to get reimbursement for this activity. So it was a tactical play that state leaders used to block a reimbursement, a required reimbursement under the California Constitution. So I think that's the source of the confusion here. But from a practical perspective, colleges really don't have a choice other than to comply.
We have a member of the public that wishes to address the board on this topic.
Yeah, Courtney Cooper.
Hello, Courtney Cooper, President for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. This was a student-led and driven bill, and this is the only one out of our legislative package which was signed by the governor. And as someone who testified on behalf of this bill on the Senate side, it is not a mandate. There is a technicality there, but as you said, as the chancellor said, no school is going to walk away from that funding. The minimum hours per week are 10 hours per district. We're not requesting new facilities or anything like that, but making sure that each district was able to have local control so that they were able to adapt to the populations needed. We fought to make sure that there was not an age limit so that we did not just only have youth. As we know, we have a veterans population that suffers from homelessness, and that does not end at the age of 25. So it is up to local control. The minimum 10 hours per week is just a bottom base. That is the bare minimum. Any district is totally open to increasing that, and we encourage them to do so. Determining what is in good standing and what determines homelessness or housing scarcity will also be left up to local control. As we've found out from surveys, people will not self-identify. There is no incentive to self-identify as homeless. If you ask someone where they slept last week, they will say their friend's house, the week before, their aunt's house, the week before, in their car. Are you homeless? No. But it is very apparent to anyone from the outside that yes, you are homeless. Yes, you are facing housing scarcity. So this would be a, not mandate, but to use that term, it is essentially a mandate to make sure that there's a bare minimum of hours offered to students who are in good standing at a local control. On the Student Senate side, we do have a AB 1995 task force, which we had an overwhelming number of board members and members of the public who wanted to be involved in this to make sure that implementation come January is already in place, if not ahead of time by the end of this term. So I just wanted to make sure that was clarified. While the terminology is tricky, it is not technically a mandate. There is a bare minimum requirement to make sure that every district that already has shower facilities has something in place.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Interim Vice Chancellor McGee, and we will now appreciate it, and you'll keep us posted as to the advocacy opportunities both in Sacramento and Washington. Member Epstein.
I'm sorry, I just had a question. I mean, have we done any kind of quick analysis on what the changing administration in Washington will mean for community college funding or rules that we're required to obey? Have we had time to do any of that? I mean,
no, we have not. We actually don't have a federal division in our office. We do gather information, but we haven't been able to do any of that yet.
We did have Vice President Estolano and I had a meeting with incoming Chancellor Oakley, who has beginning to form some plans about how to meet that need, especially, this was before the election, and I anticipate he'll be coming back to the board with recommendations on how to approach federal policymaking as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So so what's going to happen next is we're going to take one more item, and then the board will then convene in closed session, and then we will reconvene for the rest of the agenda. But the item before we convene in closed session is item 3.2, the Associate Degrees for Transfer update. Chancellor.
All right, so this is on page 53 of your agenda. President Baum and board members, this informational item is an update on implementation of the Associate Degree for Transfer initiative. At your September board meeting, you heard from Michelle Sequeiros, president of the Campaign for College Opportunity, about a recent report issued by her organization on this topic. Today, you will hear from our staff about the initiative with a focus on updating you on program outcomes achieved to date. The board has expressed an interest in resuming regular presentations about ADTs in order to ensure appropriate attention to this important initiative. To present the item is Vice Chancellor for Educational Services, Pam Walker.
Technical difficulty, but I will at least start while we get that done. President Baum, Vice President Estolano, Interim Chancellor Skinner. I'm going to be joined by Raul Arambula, who is the specialist in academic affairs, who is assigned to the ADTs, and with Alice Van Omrum, who is in our research department, who's going to tell us a little more about the transfer. When I open this, I'm going to step back because you are going to have the pleasure of hearing Beatrice Alonso, who is a Mission College student heading to Cal State Bakersfield because of an ADT. So it'll make so much more sense. So this item again is an update on the implementation of the associate degrees for transfer. As you remember, in the fall of 2010, the governor signed SB 1440, establishing that Student Transfer Achievement Reform Act. And with this legislation, it supported the California community colleges and the California State University as we laid groundwork to streamline statewide system of transfer. I'm not sure that anyone ever realizes the unintended consequences when they say, let's just put some courses together and determine that we can transfer these courses to CSU. It was a significant undertaking by our colleges and by the chancellor's office. Every transfer degree of 60 units may have 20 courses. They may have 15 courses with X number of units each. But each of those courses either has to be rewritten and developed appropriately, and then in this package come to the chancellor's office, which we worked on and approved. And you will hear of the infamous Q, because the Q was all the curriculum inventory, which then became upwards to 2,000 pieces of curriculum. So it was a significant undertaking. Now we're going to take slices out of that and do some additional work to help us in developing new curriculum, both with our colleges and with the chancellor's office. But the undertaking then went on to a place of common course descriptors. And so CSU faculty and faculty in the community college developed something called a CID. So there was a significant amount of work behind the scenes before we got to this place that we can give you this update. And I think it's not as significant to tell you what the weeds were, but how much work went on inside the weeds to help us get to this place, and so our students can benefit. And I really want to call out and support our faculty, Senate colleagues across the state, and our articulation officers who did so much extra work to get to this place. And of course, it would be unreasonable without the Chancellor's Office support in this endeavor. So saying that, Raul will start from here. I'm going to step away and I'll come back.
Good morning. Let me, thank you. Good morning. Okay, if this works. Maybe not. Okay, I think Vice Chancellor Walker kind of just went over. Everyone remembers where we actually came from, the Senate Bill 1440, where this all started. Getting the pathways, the curriculum pathways, developing the transfer model. Currently, this is where we stand. This is where we have curriculum templates started, where colleges can actually, students can actually graduate with ADTs in these areas. So right now we're at 37 of them. All the way the newest ones, child adolescence, early childhood education. Those are a couple of the new ones that we're at. So this gives you a good detail of, you know, we're growing. We're growing in areas, you know, compared to where we started, we're growing. We're just getting time. Here's just a quick detail of how the TMCs, what we call the transfer model curriculums, were developed. It was CSU staff with community college staff determining, giving them core backgrounds of what the students would actually need to cover in these areas. So it was both agreed upon, again, by CSU and community college staff, and the templates cannot be changed, so all the students know exactly what they need to take, you know, how many units it is, and what they're going to get to the 60 units in order to actually graduate with ADTs. And then currently, as of now, we offer 2,227 ADTs. So, you know, we're moving. We're trying to get there. It's, again, we get back to the queue and how much are in there. We're getting it done. It's just taking a little more time than we would like, but, you know, we're definitely trying.
So just wanted to show you some outcomes as far as what these ADTs here. And so this slide, what you're seeing is actually the volume of associate degrees for transfer from when the program first started in 11-12, where we gave 722 degrees, and obviously that has increased exponentially over time. So for 15-16, we have awarded almost 31,000 ADTs, and so that's kind of a trajectory of the volume of transfers.
Can I just interrupt real quick? So if you go to this slide and the slide before this, is there a goal that we're trying to achieve by a certain point?
I don't think there's been any goals that have been set. None of the goals were set in legislation. I think that's
Actually, there were statutory established goals under SB 1440 and the SB 440. So the requirement, and there's one of the attachments, we can look at it and maybe guide the response to your question, but essentially the requirement is that for every, so a college is required to offer an ADT in every field in which they have an associate degree and in which there is a transfer model curriculum developed. So when those two conditions exist, so if a college offers a philosophy degree, there's a TMC in philosophy, they're required then to convert that degree or create a new degree that's an ADT. And so that's a numerical. I mean, that's a goal that we can quantify exactly what that means across the state. And there's one of the attachments, and I don't know if you're going to use it as one of your slides as well, but it's the so on pages
59.
59, starting on page 59, there's a matrix that shows the status of each of our colleges on
But have
that.
we
Yeah.
set is there, I'm assuming there's a number when you put all those two formulas together, there's an output number that will tell you, we have, my question is, we have 2,227. And what should be the possible number that should 5,000? Is it 3,000? Do we have that capability to get to that number to say, are we at 40% of goal, for example? Are we, 80% of where we need to be? Just to calibrate, how far are we when we put this number up there?
Yeah, and Pam, I don't know if you have that specific number. That is a knowable number, though, based on this matrix, and we might be able to just count it up if you don't know the number right now. So.
On the end of the matrix, you will see that on page 4 of 4, so 62, ADTs required in the each of the colleges had the responsibility to go in and say what they would be able to do, right? So in the white one, you'll see the ADTs required, and that was up to 218. What happened was colleges then determined what they could do, but they did more, because if somebody saw, early childhood education could really work right now at Orange Coast College, somebody has already done that. They go in and start to look at this TMC and they develop a course. So we developed significantly more courses or programs than we first determined we would do. And so that was part of working together and looking at the TMCs. There were some colleges that, for lack of chief instruction officers, faculty leadership, understanding what to do, having curriculum specialists, last year had none. And they're proud of themselves today saying, we have 18 now. Or we have 17. So we did a lot of work in helping people try to figure out how to do the ADTs. Is there a goal? I think the goal would be that every program that we have could have an ADT attached to it, as long as there is that validation with CSU. So there may be something that we haven't done.
And Pam, if I can inject, I think the answer is actually that if you look at the matrix that starts on page 59, every one of the white boxes is an area in which an ADT needs to be developed. And so if you add up all those white boxes, and some of them had D's in them, which means we know they're developing the degrees. If you add them all up, that's how much we're short of the goal. And the goal is actually SB 440 that came along and it clarified these requirements after SB 1440 was already enacted. That's the one that really laid out a very crisp goal that we're working towards. And so I'm sorry we don't have the number totaled, but am I correct in that, Pam?
Yes, and here's the reason that some of those are where they are. The sciences are having a hard time, and IT are having a hard time getting 60 and 60. Because if you have a chemistry or a biology or a biological science, you may need 62 lower division units. And our process was 60 and 60. So we have to go back and do some additional work with CSU. Right now, we don't have I think the capacity to say we'll do 61 and you'll do 59. And so we need to do some more work that way. So we're having some problems with IT and with the sciences. The rest of them have fallen in line pretty significantly. And some colleges have figured it out, but some of them haven't done that on their campuses yet.
Yeah, I want to thank Member Avalos for bringing that up because we're about to embark on that strategic planning initiative for the entire system. And before we didn't have data. Now that we have data, we should see, but I can see what you're saying. We've got 30,000 students. Is it going to be 70,000 students in 2 years? And can the California State University do that? So keep going.
That's the part we can.
So please proceed.
Okay.
It doesn't work. So this is just a slide that kind of shows a breakdown of ADTs in associate in science and in arts. And you can see that in the beginning, the science degrees kind of had a kind of a bumpy start as far as weren't able to keep up. But it looks by 15, 16 that it's not quite 50%, but that's kind of the split between the two types of awards that you see there over time. So a little bit about, three kind of outcomes that we thought were important was to increase the number of students receiving ADTs, and you kind of saw that slide earlier. The other outcome was we were really looking to see if we can increase the share of students transferring to CSU with an ADT, kind of obvious an outcome. The third one is increase the percentage of students earning an associate degree prior to transfer. So again, one of our missions is to encourage students to transfer, but we like them to transfer with an associate's degree. And so that was another one of our outcomes that we were looking at. So for the first question, you saw kind of the volume of ADTs, but what it does here is kind of put it a little bit in perspective and compares it to associate degrees, the traditional local associate degrees. And you can tell that, in 11-12, ADTs was about 1% of all associate degrees, and that percentage has increased over time. So today, of all the 24% of our associate degrees are actually ADTs, and you can see that is increasing over time. And although there's a slight increase for traditional associate degrees, ADTs are increasing and helping that difference. So the other thing that we wanted to answer was increase the share of CSU transfers with ADT. And so what we did is we do a match with CSU. So we send all our, for students that have SSN, and 91% of our students do, to see if we can match up with what happens to when they get to CSU. So what you're seeing here is the bars are pretty much the transfer students. So it's 100% of the transfer students. And what does it look like? So for 14-15, our most recent year, it looks like obviously the students that are increasing with ADTs, that's increasing over time. But what you're also seeing is that, the students transferring with no degree is slowly decreasing over time, and that's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for CSU transfers and that they're using the ADT to transfer there. So that's kind of what it's looking at over time. And one of the things that we're always concerned with is the equity issue. So we always like to look at, is there any kind of disproportionate impact when we look at race and ethnicity? So are there differences in CSU applications and transfer outcomes by race and ethnicity? So let me kind of walk through this slide. There's a lot of information in here. So we had to look at 12-13 ADT recipients because we need a few years to see if they actually transfer or not. And so if you look at the first bar, the system total, let me walk you through that one. So of the, again, 12, 13, we didn't have the 30,000 ADTs, you know, it was less. So we're looking at like 5,000 students. And so of the ADT recipients, it looks like 72% of them transfer to CSU. When an additional 8% transfer to UC, so we're up to 80%. And then a small portion, another 7% actually transfer to in-state privates and out-of-state institutions. And then 13% of them don't transfer. So that's kind of the first bar that we looked at, the system total. And so what we did with the subsequent bars, we looked at Asians, African Americans, Hispanics, and whites. And so kind of looked at, see if those percentages were kind of maintained across the system here. And it does. I mean, you know, for Asians, for example, traditionally they tend to more of them transfer to UC, for example. So you're seeing less transfers to CSU. So this pattern is pretty consistent with our traditional transfer patterns that we're seeing. So we're not seeing any type of disproportionate impact related to ADTs when we're looking at it by race and ethnicity. And any questions on the
Could you just go back for it?
Yeah.
According to that, do African Americans have the highest transfer rate with this program in place if you count all three categories?
Yes.
The fewest number of that do not transfer to any institution.
Right. You're right, 94%. And so it ends up pretty small, you know, 159 you're looking at. So keep that in mind, but you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And how soon will we have data for 13, 14? Because I think that's the key, is the trend line, right?
Yeah,
Once you get a higher N.
Yeah, we should get, so usually our awards data comes in the fall, October. So it would be time for us to do another match with CSU now, and we'll be able to capture that next year. So that could be coming up in the next couple of
So we will always lag about 2 years behind.
As far as the transfers,
The transfer.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're seeing too, I don't have it here, but not every single student that receives an ADT transfers right the semester after. We're seeing some lags in time there, and we haven't had a chance to really explore that, but we are working on kind of looking at that, see what's happening.
Just building on that, I would just say that, especially since the board has asked for this to be a more regular update, the updated information that Alice just mentioned to you, we don't have to wait another year for you to hear that. Hopefully at the next board meeting, or the next time we agendize it, and Chancellor Oakley will be working with board leadership to figure out the timing on that. But we can figure out a more timely way to get you that information. In addition, the point that Member Avalos was making about what is that number of ADTs that we're driving towards? Is it 20? Is it 2,403? What's the specific number? We should be able to tell you that number. It's knowable. We'll have that for you the next time we present. And, you know, I understand from the research perspective, we got to figure out whether we've got the ability to get it queued up for the January meeting or not. That might be a technical issue. But my point is just that we will make that available as soon as possible. And the board's not going to have to wait a year to hear that.
If you could proceed.
So we looked at a collaboration with our research office and academic affairs, and we, in our moving forward agenda, you know, we didn't have funding available until just recently to market the ADTs. So we're going to see some changes there, and I think we'll be able to add to this larger conversation later in the spring, when we can see some of these other pieces come together. We know that will increase transfer opportunities just by nature of information being available to people. And we continue to look at enhancing curricular design. The faculty continue to come up with new and exciting academia that we can use in that regard. And we're also enhancing the way we're going to do the review of curriculum, both on the campuses and here in the Chancellor's office, to try to help that curriculum the curriculum has to be in the catalog before it can be taught. So we need to move that a little more robustly, and we're working on that as well. And then it will be our collective goal to look at how we expand the tracking mechanism statewide, both with our CSU colleagues, which is not something we can ask them to do, but we can talk about it a little differently on how we know when someone is actually moving from us to them. And that's going to be really important, and then the timeline it takes to get through 60 units at that end as well. So we've been talking about ways we can enhance those conversations. So that is the information, but here's really the soul of why this works. And so we're going to have Beatrice Alonso, again from Mission College, who's heading off to Cal State Bakersfield, tell her story, because I think that's what it's doing.
Well, is it on? Okay. I'll be graduating this December with a ADT transfer as well as a normal regular associate's degree in liberal arts. Before I get into how I learned about the program and what it means to me, I just want to go ahead and go about my background a little bit. So I want to be a social worker, so that's why I am majoring in sociology. A reasoning why I want to be a social worker, because I was in the foster care system. I was legally adopted when I was 3 by my foster mom. So ever since I knew that, I knew I want to go to college. I want to get my master's in social work so I can be a social worker. I always had issues with schooling ever since the 1st grade. It took me longer to complete my assignments, and we ended up finding out is I have a learning disability. I'm more of an audio learner, so when I listen to a teacher or a professor, it takes me more time to understand the materials because I have to keep reading it and reading it over. So schooling was always an issue for me. I took longer than more students, but I made sure that, I finished my education. I graduated from high school with an GED as well as a high school diploma. Right after I finished from high school, I enrolled myself to Los Angeles Mission Community College. I've been there 2 years now, and like I said, I will be graduating next month. I will be graduating with the normal liberal arts associate's degree as well as the ADT. It was my 2nd semester where I found out about the ADT program. It was in my sociology class, and actually in the syllabus on the last page, it had the ADT requirements. So I went to my professor's office hours and said, hey, what is this? I'm not really familiar with it, but I love sociology, so I want to know how I could get this degree. So we went over her office hours. She said, well, you need to take these classes. I think it was about 18 units in order to get that degree, as well as my normal associate's degree. So then I went to the normal counselor and I said, some of these classes overlap with my associate's degree. So at the time, it kind of seemed like I was taking more classes, but in reality, it wasn't because they overlapped with the normal associate's degree. So that's how I'm ending up getting 2 associate's degree. So I ended up finishing in 2 years with ADT, as well as I didn't know some universities didn't accept admissions if you didn't have that degree. So I was very fortunate of getting this degree so I could continue my education in January at CSU Bakersfield. Because I found out if I didn't have this degree, I would have had to wait 8 months to finish my education. And I don't take breaks. I need, I don't go out unless my homework's done. I need to, jump right into it. So I was really happy that I'm getting this degree because I get to finish my education, right after I finish at the community college, as well as I went to CSU Bakersfield, talk with their counselor, and I'm not sure if I guess with this program, I only need to take 60 units to get my bachelor's degree. So I will finish in 2 years, which will equal 4 years of getting my bachelor's degree. So that's really an awesome program because, yes, you need to take some prerequisites, but you will be done in 4 years. So students can finish earlier and finish with their goals, whereas unfortunately for me, I have to get my master's degree to become a social worker. So ultimately, this degree is working. There is, students are aware, and I'm very grateful that you guys passed this law or this bill so I can get this degree and forward on to my education. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. Now I'd like to open up to board member comments or questions.
Yeah, all right. So thank you for the presentation. One of the things that Member Reed mentioned, and I think it's a really great point, is that let's not lose sight of when we track the numbers of how many actually complete their 4-year degree, right? because we're really focused on just transferring from community college to CSU, but what about the overall goal, which is completion of the bachelor's degree? So let's not lose sight of that. Okay.
Member Khan.
I noticed earlier, going through, there's like a condensed matrix of the disciplines offered and how many campuses are taking them up in ADTs. I noticed that there were some where they had literally maybe one campus that's offering that ADT, or even in some cases, specifically, I think it was social justice, there are no campuses offering that. And I know that probably has to do in large part due to how we've set up our goals for this, where a campus has X amount of ADTs they're expected to deliver upon. So specializing in certain areas is obviously going to happen. But what do we do for those disciplines that are losing focus, or that we aren't able to tailor our educational offerings to? How do we keep up with that kind of demand?
Well, we do a significant amount of work. Well, the faculty first does a significant amount of work in trying, through the Senate's efforts, and trying to help the process of curriculum. And I think that there are times, like you said, in social justice, that we may not have a particular level of faculty support to do those programs, and so it might not be at one college. But we've also done I've seen some significant work done at colleges where they've added ADTs that they didn't think they'd do in the first place. So I think there's, as this continues to grow and prosper, and opportunities to transfer to CSU and or our HBCUs and or the University of California will all be a part of this, we may see more programs developing because of the opportunity it's going to present for our students. But I do think that there are significant amounts of time where faculty really work together and come together, and all of a sudden the aha is we can do one of those here too. And I've seen that in cybersecurity and a few other programs that, oh, we could do that too. So I think you'll see more and more ADTs developed, and every time something new comes up, some of our faculty will be developing those as well. But it really is about, if you get something done and you have this transfer opportunity, where do our students transfer to, and can they get in to CSU and the programs they're interested in? This guarantee is not guaranteed to get where you want to be. It's guaranteed to get into the system. So we know people who call and say, but I just wanted to be at Long Beach State. That's the only place I wanted to be. But they got into San Diego State and Cal State LA and Fullerton, but they didn't get into Long Beach. And so we just have to remember that that's going to happen as well. And that'll be our work with our CSU colleagues and how that happens.
Board members, before we go back to more questions from the board, we did get a speaker slip from Julie Bruno. I'll have her speak first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning again, Vice President Estolano, board members. Thank you. Member Khan, that was an excellent question, and I'll give you a little background. That actually is an area of emphasis, transfer model curriculum, and what that means is that it's very new, but it is an interdisciplinary transfer model curriculum. And so what has to happen locally at the campus is that they have to figure out where in the organizational structure that would be housed, and it would depend on the emphasis. So LGBT QI studies could be a social justice ADT. And so it would depend on where it was going to be, what faculty were going to be involved. You'll see that the ones that are new on that matrix are going to take a little bit more time to kind of get geared up, because the faculty are kind of coming together around those and actually developing the curriculum as well as the degree itself. And when we look at the areas of emphasis, those are a little tricky because of that. We have two more coming forward. Social work and law and public policy are also being developed right now as we speak. So we will have more as we move forward. And Vice Chancellor Walker's comments were really wonderful. One of the things that we always have to recognize is that these ADTs are based on the CID structure, and that's how we kind of got them rolling. So in many ways that ensures the integrity of the degree, not only at our colleges, but also at the CSU. So that transfer is really secure for our students when they go, and then they know coming in, how they'll be prepared and what they can complete for the 60 units on the CSU transfer side. It does become a capacity issue for CSU, I think, in many ways, and I think that's some of the work that we need to do. But the best thing I think about the area of emphasis degrees is that they serve those smaller programs. So it could be LGBTQI, it could be ethnic studies, it could be African American studies, it could be Chicano studies. So those really then help those students also. So we may not see an ADT in every discipline, but we have these ADTs that will serve many disciplines, and that's where we're really sort of going. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. So we'll go back to board member comments and questions. Okay. Let's go with Belansky, followed by Haynes.
I just want to point out, based upon something actually even Julie said, that in our agenda there's this information provided that of the 11,452 students who received an ADT, approximately 63% transferred to CSU. The reality is, though, and there has to be more conversation about it, a student may have been told they're transferring, but not to the school of your choice. And that's going to have to be addressed somehow. The other thing that's on the page, and this got a lot of attention at the fall plenary of the State Academic Senate, is the delay in approval of courses in the Common Course Numbering Identification Numbering System, because we know that is slowing down the development of ADTs at colleges, because you can't put through one that doesn't have all of the CID-approved courses.
Tomorrow all day we have a curriculum work group that we are taking out our heart and soul and trying to figure out how to do this different and better and thorough and appropriate. It's these kinds of programs that make you look again at how you do your work. So we are hand in hand with the faculty in this effort. We couldn't do it without them. If you get your little card from Julie, the first thing of the 10+1 is curriculum. So we're doing our significant work in supporting with the CEOs, with CIOs, with CSSOs, with faculty in the Chancellor's office. So we hope to have a more robust way to do curriculum. And as the faculty are saying, soon there will be no queue on Q Street. So we'll see if we get to that place.
Excellent. Board Member Haynes.
So first, I just want to thank the faculty. I was still working in the legislature when the legislation was going through, and I know what it took for faculty, because there was a timeline within the bill, and so everyone rolled up their sleeves. There was a bit of mumbling, but rolled up their sleeves and actively engaged to make certain that they met they met every aspect of the law on behalf of our students. So I first want to say thank you to that. But I also want to say that this was one of the initiatives, laws that really would have had a very difficult time to be done other than a process in which there were timelines and that it was a system-wide approach. And so we always need to keep in mind where system approaches are better than local approaches. And I actually believe that this one was successful because it was a system approach. Secondarily, I really appreciated the slides to this, and I'm hoping that there is a method by which, when I can get the slides, but then also that the league can get the slides to push this information down. And I know in some ways it's preliminary, but it's good news. And we always need to share good news. And I am very supportive of making certain that we are pushing this information out timely. We don't wait for a year to see what happened in the following year of this, so that we can sort of keep abreast of that. I'm a believer that we've got to add urgency to our vocabulary when it comes to these kinds of initiatives and programs. So again, thank you.
Vice President Estolano, and then Member Sumner.
Hi. On the point about data, thank you, Vice Chancellor Walker, about saying as we get it, let's get it out there next year. But one data point I'd like to see us collect, Alice, is if you can disaggregate Dreamers to see how they're doing. I don't know if you can get that, but that would be really helpful to have if we could disaggregate Dreamers. I'm hearing, we can talk later about that. And then Ms. Alonso, you did great presentation. Two things. Are you spreading the word to your classmates? Because you guys are more effective spokespeople than anybody else is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I am. Even in the sociology classes that I've been taking, the professors are really pushing towards get this degree as well as the other majors that are offered, as well as in my work environment, in my classrooms. I tell them, because they're like, hey, how are you finishing so early? And I'm like, well, both of these overlap with each other, so you could actually finish with both degrees as well as just one, and that I'm starting in spring, whereas some students have to wait till fall and, have that gap in between one semester ending and one starting. So I am spreading the word through the best that I can is through talking or texting or Twitter or,
Beautiful.
Anything like that.
Tweet away. And then lastly, you want to get a degree in social welfare. So in 2 years, I hope we see that you're going to be either at UCLA School of Social Welfare or USC, which just received a $50 million gift. So both schools are excellent. I expect you'll be enrolling there in about 2.5 years.
For her MSW, right?
I'll make sure I get your phone number and call you in 2 years. Hook me up.
Member Sumner.
I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure if this is the right time. Pam, how are we doing with as far as the veterans? Because as far as getting college credit, we've been working on that for the transfers for every, because I know they were working on the identifications with the numbers, try to get more credit. How are we doing with that?
We've done a great deal of work on prior learning
Right.
and got that information out to our colleges so that they can look at how that there are ways to do prior learning. Again, we're working with the faculty so that that information gets out to them. We've got this big veteran summit. We can push that out again. And veterans are near and dear to many of our hearts, and we want to make sure we do everything appropriate. I happen to call them out appropriately, I think, on Saturday at the statewide student senate, and every one of them came up and wanted to take a picture because we supported their efforts and told us what they're doing. But I think that with the prior learning work we've done, it should. I hope it will be successful on their regard, and if not, we'll figure out a different way to do it. Thank you.
Member Epstein.
Ms. Alonso, you've mentioned a couple times you have an associate's degree and an ADT. And I was wondering, is there value in having both? Is there a reason that somebody would want both, or are they more or less interchangeable?
Well, from how my counselor explained it to me, the associate's degree, here that you're hearing, it's guaranteeing me a spot. So I need that degree in order to get into the university in spring. Like I mentioned before, I don't take gaps in between. So whichever university, I wasn't picky of which university. I know I needed, I just needed one that had a good program in sociology for my bachelor's degree. So getting this degree is meaning that I'll be able to attend as soon as possible, as well as the associate's degree in liberal arts and social behavior. How it was explained to me is it looks better on my resume. As well as if I didn't get this ADT, I'll have an associate's degree in social behavior, so I'll be able to at least work kind of in my field at a lower division, whereas the ADT it's making me look better, where I get to attend sooner, as well as I will finish my bachelor's degree in 2 years, 2 extra years.
That does raise a data issue, though, that others have raised for me, too, that we're seeing an exponential growth in the number of degrees being awarded at our colleges, even in excess of the number of students that we have at the colleges. And so how we reconcile that and tell that story effectively, too. And don't need to answer that right now. Well, we're going to thank you very much for the presentation. It's terrific, and I'm glad that we're going to be resuming a regular reporting on that because this is an important initiative of the district. So right now the board will recess into closed session, and I expect we will reconvene in open session at 1 o'clock. But we will recess into closed session for now.